Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we have a special guest named Holly Mamiye. Did I say that right?
It's close. Holly Mamie, you can say.
Mamie.
Mhm.
And she is from Hillside, New Jersey, and she is an acupuncturist, and she's also trained in some other work with the brain, and we're going to hear more about that today. And we are going to talk about just basically how to heal the brain and how acupuncture is a modality that you could utilize that will basically reverse some of the illnesses that you have. And a lot of people don't know what acupuncture is, or they heard of it, but they've been afraid of it. So we'll kind of like touch on some of those beliefs and we'll go from there. Okay. So I'm excited. Hi, Holly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Carolyn. I'm very excited to meet you and discuss some of these concepts that we both share similar interests. And so, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Looking forward to the podcast. Okay, so we're starting now. Holly, so tell me a little bit about your background and what got you interested in becoming an acupuncturist.
For sure. So I'm originally trained as a teacher. I was a school teacher for a few years. When my oldest child was born in 2007, she was born with certain physical ailments that it was very hard for us at the beginning to figure out how to navigate the world of dealing with a child with some health concerns. And basically the focus for me, I poured myself into learning about natural ways to keep her healthy. So I started learning about holistic nutrition, and I started studying different ways to keep the body just as strong as possible. Eventually led me to acupuncture and to qigong, which is a type of movement similar to yoga or tai chi, but it's simple movements and they're very powerful, and they open up the channels of the body and help the energy flow freely. And I heard a story about a child that had a similar condition to my daughter's that used qigong and lived a long, healthy life. So I really was just fascinated by it. And eventually I started working for an acupuncturist part-time, and then slowly made my way into the program of becoming one myself. So that's my history.
And
I've been
how
in the
is your
field
daughter
now
now?
since then. My daughter's, thank God, she's very healthy. She's 15 years old, very tall, very strong, no issues. So it's amazing.
Wow. And do you practice qigong on yourself or as a regular practice?
We practice qigong regularly. Myself, my mother, a lot of people in my family. It definitely makes a huge difference in our lives. It's changed our lives, I would say, doing these practices on a regular basis.
So when I lived in Brooklyn, there was these free qigong classes on the beach at I think it was Brighton Beach, and I used to go a couple times. I went. I loved it. I would love to have a class locally here in Elizabeth, New Jersey, or Hillside, where you live. So maybe we can talk about that more later. But
Sure.
it sounds really amazing, your journey, and that how it's healed your daughter and how it's helped your life as well. Have you noticed any? You said your parents also got into the practice.
So my mother practices daily, actually, and she was not a believer. I kind of had to force her to come to this class with me because I told her, you're gonna love this, and she did come reluctantly, and it changed. She would say it changed her life, and I helped her so much by just taking her to that class, and we're still very close with the instructor from that class. Because just these simple practices really give you a lot of energy every day, give you the strength you need to get through things, and just keep everything flowing internally so that you feel stronger. And there's simple things that you can do without taking anything or adding anything to the body, using the body's own resources to keep yourself strong and healthy. So we're really big believers
and
in it.
It feels like to me like when you're doing the qigong, like you're taking energy from the sun and somehow channeling it in different ways in your body.
That's one way of thinking about it. The body itself, as I studied Chinese medicine, has a lot of resources within it that sometimes we can access. And sometimes there are blockages as well, which is why we feel sluggish and why we don't have the energy. So by doing these movements, the qigong movements, you're unblocking things and letting that momentum sort of pick up and giving yourself strength. And then you can also say that you're kind of connecting with the energy around you and bringing some of that inside of you as well. But we have a lot of electricity within our body that we can access ourselves. We're made up of cells and they have energy inside of them. So it's not such a crazy thing to understand the physics of the cell and then understand that we're electric and our body has this force within us.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I've been, trying to let people know about. I am a spiritual fitness coach, and part of what I do is called energy dynamics. And I work on people virtually. And basically, I can feel their energies and where they're blocked. And I can pinpoint the root cause of how they became blocked. And let's, go there and try to and basically clear it energetically.
Wow. That's
Virtually,
really cool.
and it's been really amazing. And really amazing to understand how we are all just energy. And if you look into a microscope at an atom, it's just space in between.
Mm-hmm.
We think everything is so solid, but yeah. And so the reality that we see is very limited to the five senses. But then, there's just a whole other universe of how we're connected and how we're just energy and how we can use that energy to help each other become healed. So you went out for a moment, but you're back.
I'm back.
Awesome.
Sorry about that.
All right. So tell us, where is your office that you do the acupuncture?
So we opened an office in November, myself and also my husband, Jack. It's in Westfield, New Jersey, in the downtown. I don't know if you're familiar with Westfield, but it's a bustling town, a lot of nice stores. There's a Trader Joe's right by our office. It's really a nice place, nice vibes over there. We opened a practice in a building with other doctors and practitioners, and we have a really zen office space. People will tell you that when you come in, you feel the good energy in the room. It's very spa-like atmosphere. You get to relax, you get to experience the treatment. We perform acupuncture, cupping. We perform Tui Na, which is a type of massage. We do gua sha, which is another type of technique similar to acupuncture. And we are going to be offering additional services in the near future as well, and also selling some herbs and some supplements for people. So it's really great. We're excited to have opened, and now we have a lot of people coming in, and a lot of my patients that I've been treating for many years privately have really enjoyed coming to our new space. So thank God it's really going well for us so far.
Well, I'd be more than happy to do a free workshop for you there.
Thank you. That would be wonderful. We'd love to have you.
So do you ever do any virtual client visits?
So I've done some virtual client visits. I think with acupuncture, obviously, it's not something that you can do virtually. Right. So I do hands-on acupuncture for the most part, but I do some speaking in terms of ways to keep yourself healthy, talk a little bit about how it works, just the mentality. Also, some of the things that I believe in besides for acupuncture of living kind of a spiritual and a healthy life, keeping yourself unblocked, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, we're really on the same wavelength about that. I think we should do a virtual workshop together.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so everybody who's listening, stay tuned, like and subscribe the YouTube channel, and you'll be posted about that workshop when we do it. I'm so excited. Also, we'll probably have a Facebook group that you could join. So stay tuned, just like and subscribe. Okay, awesome. All right, so now what else do I want to know? So tell me about some of your client success stories with acupuncture.
For sure. You can also check out my website at zenandgo.org, and you can see some of the testimonials, but I've had a lot of success in some interesting areas. I would like to say a lot of pain management, which is why usually people seek treatment for acupuncture. Usually we're the 17th practitioner that somebody comes to. So we're not like the first, we're not the second. We're far down the list of things that people try. Although now it's becoming more mainstream, I would say. But I do a lot of amazing work with pain. I had a patient who was on pain medications for 16 years. He really, unfortunately, had a bad side effect to a surgery, and he never fully recovered. And he was taking high doses of pain medicine just to function. Sweet man. And so I told him it's going to take some time, but we're going to get you there. And after about 2 months, he's been off of everything. He's sleeping through the night. He has tons of energy, and he's amazed, and he's stuck with it. Cause like I like to tell my patients, it's not something you just do once and you're totally healed. The body has to train itself out of the stagnation, out of the pain. It's recreating the pain, unfortunately, when it's something chronic, but we will get you there. And he's stuck with it, and he's on maintenance now. And thank God he's doing really well. So that's one of my loyal patients that I've been seeing for a while. I've also done a lot of labor induction in the past few months. So thank
Oh,
God
wow.
had beautiful, smooth labors, and they'll testify to that
Home
on my website.
deliveries?
Some home, some hospital, but the labor went very smoothly regardless. I also do some infertility treatments. So I had one baby that was born this year that was a result of
Wow.
puncture that she and her husband both received. So that's a really nice feeling. And then I also treat a lot of menstrual issues. I treat other kinds of female issues, reproductive issues, menopause symptoms related to that. And additionally, I treat everything, headaches. I've treated a lot of kidney stones in the past year. One treatment, the person passed the stones. So it really ranges the full gamut of different kinds of ailments that I treat. And a lot of people just come in because they're feeling stressed and they need that stress relief, and 1 or 2 treatments, and they say like it changes their whole life. So
I have a
there's
story
a lot of
about
things
how acupuncture changed my life.
Oh, I'd love to hear about that.
Okay, so I was in a car accident in 2004 where I was backing up in a driveway and a car was coming, and I had major whiplash, and I was living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, I believe. No, back in Houston, either one of those places. I think it was Houston, and I went to a chiropractor for like 3 months. Then that's when I moved to New York. I started my new job in New York, and after about 3 months. So what happened was I did not want to look like a receptionist. I was a quality management analyst at a hospital, and and people would come in, to our location, and if my desk was facing out, I feel like I looked like a receptionist. So what I did was I moved my computer over, and I was looking. I was like this, and I was looking at the computer like this all day. So what happened was. And my boss didn't even, mention anything about the bad ergonomic situation that was going on. After my neck was starting to hurt, but 3 months into the job, I was in such excruciating pain. I had to go on sick leave. I had to be out. It was crazy. I was out for like 6 months on workers' comp, and nothing would help me. I mean, I think what happened was a chiropractor made it actually worse one time when they adjusted me. And I was desperate for help. And I asked somebody about, an acupuncturist, and I went to the wrong one because they were like, they didn't even speak English. I couldn't even tell them about my neck problem, really. And after the acupuncture treatment, they manipulated my neck. They're not supposed to do that.
Right.
Made it worse. I couldn't even drive home hardly. I was in such excruciating pain. This went on for months until I finally got a referral to this amazing acupuncturist, Dr. Kin. And he says if you could find an acupuncturist with more experience, he'll give you a free session. He's from China, and he's in Brooklyn. So anyway, I was living in Brooklyn at the time. I went to see him, and I'm like, my life came back to normal within like 2 treatments. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was wearing a neck brace. This was crazy.
2 treatments. That's amazing. That's really a great story.
I continued going to him, for years, but now we live in New Jersey. But I just like my neck. I'm normal now, like it just saved my life.
That's really a great story. Wow. Glad you recovered so quickly. That's nice. That's nice to hear.
I also was reminded when you were talking about the treatment that you do while women are giving birth. That's so interesting. I heard that also people could be like in surgery or something, and they're getting acupuncture to
for anesthesia
instead of anesthesia. How is that? That blows my mind. They don't feel the pain.
It's used in Asia frequently that they use acupuncture anesthesia. It's not used as frequently here. But it is something that insurance, believe it or not, will cover a lot of times. And because acupuncture is a very powerful technique, and we access the pain mechanisms and the opioid receptors in the body. So you can actually use it as anesthesia in surgery, which is pretty cool. Not something I would necessarily say that I'm going to recommend across the board. Don't take the anesthesia, just do the acupuncture. But it is used, and there are people that are experts in the concept. So it's definitely something that exists, just to show you how powerful these little needles are.
It's so wild. So can you explain to those that aren't familiar with the meridian system and how the acupuncture works with that?
Yeah, sure. So acupuncture is an ancient medicine. It's been continuously in practice for thousands of years, somewhere between 2,000, 5,000. We're not exactly sure. The concept of the meridians is that they're channels of fluid and blood that run through the body. It doesn't exactly align with the systems that we learn about in Western biology, but they are there and they exist. And there are certain points on the body that help you access certain sort of vortices of energy. So you put the needle in, very fine needle. I always tell people it's like putting a hair through the skin. We don't draw blood. It doesn't feel like much. Sometimes you don't feel anything when the needle goes in, but they're very powerful. And the points sometimes are distal on the fingers and on the feet and on the legs, but they go through the entire channel, which can run all the way up to the head, passing through the organs and clearing blockages. And so we're telling the body, and we're telling parts of the body where we want things to clear. We learn these hundreds of different points. We learn how to insert the needles, and we're not 100% sure scientifically why it works. So it's interesting that it definitely does work. And now they are proving it using actual scientific research and studies. So now it's proven to be the best treatment for certain things like osteoarthritis of the knee, low back pain, and doctors are recommending it because they don't want to keep putting patients on opioids and the whole opioid epidemic and crisis. As a result, now doctors are recommending acupuncture because we are able to access parts of the brain that will help relax the system, produce that same effect without medication. So there are 12 meridians, and they're connected throughout the body, and we insert the needles along those pathways, basically. So we're highly trained. It's many years of training. It's a master's degree, postgraduate degree, just like a medical degree.
Right. So in my energy dynamics book, when I'm energy checking someone, there's the meridians, and we go and if I feel a block in any of those meridians, I can go to that place and ask how many blocks there are, and then I can sort of virtually clear it energetically. It's cool.
That's pretty cool.
But I mean, there's many ways to, I guess, address it. There's different ways. And it's sort of interesting because, it's doing the same thing in a way.
Right. And there are many ways to unblock. There's also the chakras that people are able to unblock. There's Reiki, there's medical Qigong. These are all techniques that don't involve touching the person. Sometimes you put the hands near the person, but you're able to find the blockages without necessarily palpating the actual skin, which is pretty cool. I'm trained obviously in a little bit of a different technique, but I understand that you can actually unblock without the needles. There are ways to do so. So we can access our own internal energy without needles for sure. But it is a physical, biological change that does take place when I put in the needle. So I tell people, you don't have to believe in it for it to work. Because I have the most skeptical patients that come in and they don't believe in it. They tell me straight out, I don't believe in acupuncture. And I said, luckily, there's nothing about belief. And when I'm treating you, you cannot believe in it and you'll still feel better. So just to show you that we are able to unlock these energy fields, whether or not the person subscribes to the belief system.
Right. And now they have all the science of the quantum energy field that backs up all this stuff as well. So it's not woo woo. And I used to think it was woo woo because, I remember at one point I went to somebody who advertised himself as an energy healer, and all they did was put me on a table. This was when I had the excruciating pain. And all they did was put me on a table and put their hands over me and then charged me $300. And I just felt like oh God, what a waste of money this was. He didn't
Right.
do anything. But I mean, I guess he was doing something energetically. I just thought it was complete woo woo, and I just
Yeah.
was so upset. But I read a book called Hands on Healing. Have you heard of that book? Okay, so in that book, they
Yes.
did
Yeah.
experiments with mice. Yeah, they did experiments with students, college students, and they would put their hands over the mice cage, and the mice had memory tumors. And then there were other mice that weren't thought about. And the mice
Right.
that weren't thought about died. And the mice that had the intention with the students learning this hands-on healing, just putting their hands over the cage, they were surviving. And
Mhm.
then they started realizing how to put the energy into a physical object, like holding it in your hands and putting the intention and putting into some cotton or something and then shipping it to somebody. It was wild because when I
Wow.
read this book, I had no idea there was science behind it, but they performed scientific experiments over and over again that are, fundamentally shown that this is the science, and you
Right.
can't disprove it. Who are we to say how the cosmos work? We're just like a little fly on the wall.
It's true. And also there's the concept of the placebo effect. So people always ask me, is acupuncture a placebo effect? I can tell you flat out that it's not a placebo effect because there are actual changes going on in the body. But even if it were, the concept of using placebo to actually heal does work. Like we know in these studies where a certain percentage of people that take the sugar pill when there's a
Yeah.
placebo trial still improve and still get better. So
Yes.
there is that concept of mind over matter that I believe in, and you can access the placebo effect just by giving somebody space and allowing them to just let their body heal actually on its own. So
Yes, I do.
that totally makes sense.
I agree with that. But if it was just the placebo effect, then also the mice wouldn't have got better, because what do they know that you're putting your
What do
hands
they
up?
Right.
They don't
So
know
there's
anything, right?
energetic exchange with everybody that we interact. So the placebo is that exchange of energy, I would say. And it does
Mhm.
actually have somewhat of an effect. So they have this concept of sham acupuncture as well, where they're saying they're putting points not on the actual channel or not on the point and seeing how well the person does. Usually the patients do better when you're using the right points, but a lot of patients do better with the sham points. So why does that happen? Because there's still always going to be an exchange of energy, and any kind of interaction similar to that, people are going to feel your energy that you're giving to them. So the same thing is true with therapy. So, just by holding space for people, they do recover because you are exchanging
Mhm.
that kind of energy.
I agree. And that's what we were talking about earlier before we started the recording,
Yeah.
about the intention, and that it only works with belief, if there's belief behind the intention. So if you believe in the placebo, it works. Just like if you pray, but you don't believe in what you're saying, you don't believe that anyone's listening, your prayers aren't being answered. But
Right.
if you
And that's
believe
the
in
whole
perfect
concept of how
faith,
prayer works, because
exactly.
we're accessing one theory is we're accessing our pineal gland, which is magnetic, and it's sending out magnetic energy to the person that we're praying for, and it's that energy that's being sent in large doses when a lot of people are praying for one person actually heals them. So it's not such a foreign concept to us if we believe in prayer. So
Right. Now, I liked, also, just to switch topics for a minute. I liked your post about child raising.
oh
You saw my comment earlier.
yes.
So where does that come into play about the parenting stuff?
Right. So I've become an advocate for parental alienation, against parental alienation, which is unfortunately prevalent in a lot of different communities, very prevalent in the Jewish community at the moment. And it goes along with the whole get refusal. It goes hand in hand a lot of times. One parent maybe is alienating, one parent is withholding the get. And the concept of not kind of taking it out on the child, because the child is ultimately the victim when one parent alienates another parent and uses the child as the pawn in a divorce situation, in any kind of situation that's abusive to the child. So people will sometimes support somebody from withholding the child. A lot of community members say, oh, you should do that. A lot of people will encourage this
Mhm.
concept of alienation. Obviously in extreme situations, you have to protect the child against the other parent, but in most situations, I would say majority of the time it's child abuse to not allow the child fair access to both of their biological parents. and to assume that like a step parent can replace that role. So I'm personally divorced. I don't have parental alienation taking place in my personal life, but I have a lot of friends who have been affected severely by this parental alienation. So I'm a big advocate, and you can look on my Facebook. I post a lot about it, and you can ask me more if you'd like to find out more about it, because it is a real epidemic, actually, parental alienation, and it's very damaging to the parent as well as the child.
So are you remarried or just you live with your kids?
I'm remarried, and my ex-husband and I co-parent. We have to share 50-50 custody of our kids, and their kids go back and forth. And people say, oh, it's hard, they're going back and forth, but at least they have both parents in their lives, and that stability is very important for their psychological well-being, and not having to wonder when they're 18, whatever happened to my father or my mother, why didn't I get to see them? And a lot of times they're being fed lies about the other parent just because the divorce
Absolutely.
led to that. So
Someone I'm very close to was married twice, and the second wife, she just got married to him because she wanted a baby and a wedding, and that's it. And she like forced had a baby with him even though they didn't get along, and then they got divorced.
wow.
Then
Terrible.
she raised the daughter on her own, and this daughter has major psychological disorders. She's been in therapy all her life, and she's like 15 now. But the father has no connection with her at all. Like the mother just totally cut off connection with him when the daughter was about 6, because she said if you can't call her every week and you don't visit her, then if you don't visit her once a month, this guy has a lot of other kids, from his first marriage. So she's like, if you don't call her every week, then just stay out of her life altogether. And I'm not excusing him for not calling every week, but it was like he just couldn't do it. He didn't have the mental capacity to keep track of all these kids that he has to call every week, because he's now starting another family at the time. And it just devastating, what the effects are. And so when I energy check people, they could be 50 years old, but they have these personality disorders and they have no idea why. And then when I energy check, it goes back to a childhood trauma, like what you're talking about. They didn't have both parents in their lives. They had, imagine how they feel split because they feel like maybe they're not good enough, and they carry that on to their adulthood.
And more so than that, then they're going to think that one of their biological parents is a bad person. And the damage that does on knowing that your father or your mother is a bad person, and that's what they're being told, is very hard on people. I mean, even murderers and serial killers actually have access to their children in prison, believe it or not. They get to come home for Christmas. I mean, these are real things. They get to see their family. So when people are alienating completely another parent, the child's internalizing that they are part biologically of somebody who's very bad. They're not even allowed to see them. That's very damaging on a child. And they wonder as they get older, there's a lot of repercussions. Plus, I mean, we should also acknowledge, besides for the child, the parent that's being alienated and the damage that it has on them, the father who hasn't been allowed to see his children. And now he's working and he's paying all this child support, but he doesn't have access to his children. So going on so regularly that people would be shocked. And a lot of people think there must be more to the story, but there's oftentimes not more to the story. It's just simple selfish act of one parent against the other. They don't want to deal with their ex-spouse, and they just cut them out and tell the children that they're a bad person, and that's all there is to it. And the
I would love to join you in advocating about this, because I saw firsthand how that damaged that little girl.
Yeah, so that's another topic I would love to talk about as well if people are interested in.
Well, I think it's interesting for people just to know more about you and your belief system and what you're all about. Because maybe they live locally, or they have maybe they live in the New Jersey area. If you live in the New Jersey area, what's the name of the place again and the location?
I live in Hillside, New Jersey.
No, the office where you work.
Oh, my office is in Westfield, New Jersey.
But what's it called?
It's called Zen and Go Acupuncture and Healing Center.
Okay, so can they Google Zen and Go?
They can Google zenandgo.org. That's my website, and they can check us out.
Can you spell it out for us, please?
Sure. ZENANDGO.org. O-R-G.
Okay. And so that's how people should get a hold of you if they like what
you can
you're
get a
all
hold
about.
of me at my website. That's fine. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, awesome. And now just to repeat my website one last time for anybody who would like a free virtual energy healing session. It's just 30 minutes. I'm not going to heal you. I'm just going to kind of, because it's free session. All I'm going to do is energy check to see where your blocks are. You tell me what's going on with you. I'll energy check to see where your blocks are. So that website is spiritualfitness.coach. So that's .coach, not .com. Awesome. I was very happy to have this amazing interview with you, Holly, and I look so much forward to continuing our connection and hopefully doing other stuff together.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carolyn. It was really a pleasure meeting you and having this conversation, and love to work together more in the future for sure. That'd be great.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go now. Oops. I don't know what happened here. I lost you there for a minute. Are you there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm hanging up. Bye, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.